The silver transport shuttle hovered above Earth's surface, its engines humming softly. Aboard it sat a group of young alien cadets, wide-eyed and nervous. Their colorful uniforms shimmered faintly, each symbol marking their planet of origin. For most of them, it was their first time on Earth, the legendary blue world filled with strange, unpredictable creatures called humans. Leading the group was Instructor Jakali, a tall, sleek-skinned being from the Valari system. Her 3 eyes scanned the Earth landscape as the shuttle descended. "Listen well, trainees," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Earth is not like any other planet in the Confederation. The humans are different." "How different?" asked a soft voice from the back. It belonged to Nirel, a lavender-skinned cadet with gentle eyes and a curious heart. Her antennae twitched as she looked out the window. She had studied Earth before, its wars, its art, its messy love stories. But now she was here in person, and her heart fluttered. Jakali's lip curled into a faint smirk. "You'll see." The shuttle touched down at Camp Unity, a joint training facility where aliens and humans worked side by side. Waiting for them at the landing pad was the Earth representative, a tall human man with scruffy hair, a crooked grin, and a relaxed stance. "Welcome, cosmic travelers," he said, arms spread wide. "Name's Brennick, but you can call me Bren." His voice was deep and cheerful, like warm honey poured into a mug. Nirel felt her chest tighten a little, not in fear, but something else she couldn't name yet. Jakali introduced the trainees quickly, and Bren led them toward a large open structure. "You'll be learning how humans survive, fight, and thrive," he explained. "And trust me, it's going to be one wild ride." As they walked, the aliens whispered to each other, pointing out strange things: birds flying freely, grass underfoot, and the smell of cooked food wafting through the air. Nirel couldn't stop staring at Bren. His eyes held a strange kindness. His movements were relaxed but strong, and when he caught her staring, he winked. She looked away, her cheeks turning a soft violet. "Today," Bren said, "we're starting with a survival lesson, and you're going to see something unbelievable." They gathered in a training dome. On the table before them sat a collection of items labeled in glowing red letters. "Caution, lethal materials." Jakali stepped forward. "Each of these substances is deadly to 93% of known species. 1 drop, 1 bite, 1 inhale, and it's over." The aliens recoiled. Nirel leaned closer, eyes wide. "Then why are they here?" "To demonstrate human adaptability," Jakali said. Bren grinned. "And to show you what we eat for fun." He picked up a bright red item shaped like a tiny horn. "This," he said, "is called a chili pepper." The aliens gasped. "It contains capsaicin, extremely dangerous to most of you, burns on contact, causes extreme pain." Without hesitation, Bren bit into it. Crunch. Nirel jumped. Another cadet screamed. Bren's face turned red. Sweat dripped from his brow. His eyes watered. But then, he smiled. "Spicy," he said, waving a hand in front of his mouth. "But tasty." The room fell silent. Nirel's heart thudded. What kind of species was this? Jakali smirked. "Next." Bren pulled out a black, jagged item. "Licorice. Smells awful to most aliens. Tastes like Earth childhood." One by one, he ate through items that should have been in a containment vault. Fermented fish, ghost pepper chips, wasabi paste, durian fruit. Each bite was a spectacle. Each reaction, a wild show of endurance. The alien trainees watched in awe. Some gagged from the smell alone. Others clutched their stomachs just thinking about it, but not Nirel. She stared at Bren with growing fascination. It wasn't just what he ate. It was how he smiled through it, how he laughed, even when it burned, how alive he seemed. "Is he broken?" one cadet whispered. "No," Nirel whispered back. "He's human." Jakali nodded approvingly. And now, your turn. The aliens froze. Bren grinned and held out a small red candy wrapped in foil. Come on, just a nibble. Narelle stepped forward. She took the candy, unwrapped it slowly, and sniffed. Sweet. But also sharp. She placed it on her tongue. Then her eyes went wide. It was like her entire mouth had been set on fire, but the taste, it was strange, wild, hot, sweet, and thrilling. She staggered back, panting, eyes tearing up. Bren caught her, gently. You okay? She blinked up at him, breathing hard. That was incredible. Their eyes locked. And in that electric second, Narelle knew Earth was going to change her. Forever. The rest of the trainees hesitated, watching Narelle recover with flushed cheeks and wide eyes. One brave soul, a blue-scaled cadet named Rezik, stepped forward next. He tried a sliver of dried wasabi chip. One crunch, and his face twisted, into a mix of confusion and betrayal before he dropped to his knees, hissing. Bren quickly handed him a glass of milk. That's normal, Bren said, chuckling. We call it a flavor explosion. You'll get used to it. Maybe. The trainees all muttered, some in awe, others in horror. But no one could deny it. Humans were resilient, maybe even reckless. But there was something exciting about that. Later that day, the trainees were assigned to shared quarters. Narelle was placed in a modest room with two others, but her mind was somewhere else, still burning with the sensation of the spicy candy and the strange comfort of Bren's touch when he steadied her. She didn't understand why it lingered in her mind, but she couldn't let it go. Outside, the evening sun bathed the camp in gold. Curious and restless, Narelle stepped out. She wandered the grounds until she heard soft music drifting from the edge of the camp. Drawn in, she followed the sound to a bench under a tree, where Bren was sitting with a small music player, feet kicked up, humming to himself. He noticed her and gave that signature crooked smile. Couldn't resist the earth air, huh? Narelle smiled softly and sat beside him. It's calmer than I expected. People think Earth is chaos, Bren said, looking up at the orange sky. But there are quiet places too. Just gotta look. She watched him for a moment, then said, Why do humans eat things that hurt? He chuckled. Good question. We don't really see it as pain. More like a thrill. We chase it because it makes us feel alive. That's strange, she murmured. But also beautiful. He looked at her with interest. You've got a poetic soul, Narelle. She glanced away, heat rising to her cheeks again. I study a lot of your stories. Earth novels, songs, films. There's so much emotion in them. So much feeling. Bren leaned in slightly. And now you're feeling it firsthand. She nodded. When I ate that candy, I didn't just feel heat. I felt awake. Like my body didn't know what to do, but it loved the chaos. He laughed. That's Earth, all right. Confusing, intense, but unforgettable. Their eyes met again. This time, there was no interruption. Just quiet, shared understanding. You're different from what I expected, she said. How so? I thought humans were cold, dangerous. But you burn in a warm way. Bren blinked, then smiled slowly. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Just then, a loud buzz sounded from her wrist communicator. She flinched, breaking the moment. Evening debrief, she sighed. Jakali doesn't tolerate lateness. Bren stood with her. Then let's not keep the good lady waiting. They walked back together, side by side. And though nothing more was said, the space between them felt charged, like the storm before a kiss. The next day brought more training, physical drills, Earth biology lessons, and survival simulations. Most aliens struggled with the unpredictable terrain, the sudden weather changes. Even the bugs, but humans thrived in it. One lesson in particular stood out. The trainees were brought to a sealed chamber. Inside, various plants and substances were displayed. These, Jacali said, pointing, are considered toxic, acidic, or radioactive. On most worlds. The aliens stepped back instinctively. Some held their breath. Bren strolled in casually, holding a fork and a grin. And yet, we turned most of them into snacks. Narelle couldn't believe it. He picked up something called a rhubarb tart made from a plant with poisonous leaves. Then he munched on fermented garlic, smelly, black, and nearly sentient in appearance. The climax came when he opened a jar of something yellow and bubbling. The room fell silent. "This," Bren said dramatically, "is mustard. Some say it's the war cry of sandwiches." Without hesitation, he dipped a piece of meat into it and ate it. Burns all the way up the nose. The trainees stared. Narelle stepped forward again, unable to resist. She dipped a tiny chip into the mustard and tasted it. Her eyes widened. It was sharp, like tasting lightning, but then it mellowed, leaving a strange warmth. "I like this one," she whispered. Bren beamed. "Knew you were brave." Others began trying small samples, some more successful than others. Rezik fainted after a single sniff of horseradish. By the end of the lesson, something had changed. The alien trainees no longer saw humans as reckless monsters, but as beings who had somehow made chaos into culture. That evening, as they returned to their quarters, Nirel's friend Luma leaned close and whispered, "You like the human, don't you?" Narelle hesitated. "He's interesting." "No. You like him." She said nothing, but her mind, her heart, and even the taste in her mouth still burned with thoughts of him. And deep inside, she knew this wasn't just a training mission anymore. Something deeper had begun. Something she wasn't ready to name, but couldn't ignore. The next week passed in a blur. Earth's training schedule was intense. Long hikes, fast learning, and endless surprises. The alien trainees slowly began to adapt, each one growing stronger, more curious, and strangely, more human. But Narelle noticed something else changing too. Every day her eyes would search for Bren. And every time she saw him, her pulse quickened. His laugh, his easy way of talking, the little smirk he gave when someone was confused, it was all becoming a part of her daily rhythm, like breathing. One evening, after a brutal obstacle course that left half the cadets collapsed in exhaustion, Bren approached her quietly. "You held up pretty well," he said, handing her a cold bottle of fizzy earth water. Narelle took it with a soft thanks and sat down on a low wall, wiping the sweat from her brow. "I didn't think I would make it, but you did." He sat beside her. "You're tougher than you think." She turned her head to look at him. "Is that how humans survive? Just pushing forward even when everything burns?" "Pretty much," he said, grinning. "We eat fire, run through storms, and laugh while doing it." She laughed softly. "No wonder your stories are filled with wild romance and last chances." Bren raised an eyebrow. "Romance?" Narelle looked away, her voice dropping. "Your people love deeply, sometimes foolishly, but it's beautiful. We don't have stories like that on my world. Everything's logical, arranged, clean. No chaos. No fire." Bren's gaze softened. "Maybe that's why you're here. To find your own fire." Their eyes met again, and neither looked away. But before the moment could deepen, a loud alarm rang out, signaling nightfall curfew. Bren stood, slowly. "Duty calls, but I know a place. If you ever want to see Earth's heart, meet me after hours." Narelle blinked. "Is that allowed?" He smirked. "You're in training. Breaking a tiny rule is part of the education." That night, After the lights dimmed and the camp quieted, Narelle found herself standing at the edge of the training field, heart pounding. Bren emerged from the shadows, tossing her a small earth jacket. "Gets chilly where we're going." They walked in silence under the stars, past the boundary markers, into the forest beyond. The path was lit only by moonlight and glowing insects that drifted lazily through the trees. Everything felt alive, but calm. "Where are we going?" Narelle whispered. "To the place where I go when I want to remember what I'm fighting for." After a short climb, they arrived at a small cliff overlooking a wide valley. The land below shimmered with soft blue flowers that glowed in the dark. A natural phenomenon. A hidden earth beauty. Narelle gasped. "It's like starlight on the ground." Bren nodded. "First time I came here I cried. Don't tell anyone, though." She smiled at him, touched by his honesty. They sat side by side, the world quiet around them. After a moment, she leaned slightly against him. He didn't pull away. Instead, he whispered, "You're not like the others." Narelle looked up at him. "Neither are you." He reached out, brushing her cheek lightly with his fingers. "You feel everything, even the smallest things." "I didn't know I could," she whispered. Their faces were close now, breath mingling in the cool air. Then, softly, slowly, he kissed her. It wasn't wild or rushed. It was gentle, curious, like tasting something forbidden, but right. When they pulled apart, Narelle's voice trembled. "I think I'm burning." Bren smiled. "Good. That means it's real." They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in silence and soft glances, hearts racing. For Narelle, the world had shifted. Earth was no longer just a training site. It was a place where feelings were loud and moments meant something. As they walked back toward the camp, Narelle looked up at the sky and whispered, "I don't want to go back to my old life." Bren heard her. He didn't say anything, but he gently reached for her hand and held it. That said more than words ever could. The next morning, everything felt different. The Earth sun rose like it always did, soft, warm, golden. But to Narelle, the air felt sweeter. Her steps were lighter. Her heart buzzed with something new. A memory of soft lips, of glowing flowers, of Bren's hand wrapped around hers. She kept it all close, tucked safely in the corners of her heart, as the trainees marched to the next lesson. Today's challenge was extreme. The group was led to a secure testing ground with protective suits, emergency sprays, and warnings posted everywhere. Jakali, arms crossed, looked dead serious. "Today, we test your limits. You will observe direct interaction with Earth's most dangerous natural elements, materials that are classified as deadly by multiple galactic systems." Some cadets flinched. One whispered, "Is this a punishment?" Bren, already suited up in a relaxed stance, smirked. "Nope, just another day on Earth." He pointed to a table lined with items, each sealed in containers. There was ghost pepper extract, durian fruit, pickled eggs, lava-hot chili, nuclear wasabi paste, and a dish labeled century egg, a preserved egg that looked like it belonged in a museum, not a mouth. "These are the things humans eat," Jakali announced. "Voluntarily," Rezik groaned. "You people are insane." "I take that as a compliment," Bren replied. Then, to everyone's shock, he opened the container with the ghost pepper extract. Without hesitation, he dipped a small chip in it and popped it into his mouth. The silence was deafening. His face flushed. A tear slid from one eye, but he didn't scream. Instead, he grinned. Still got it. Some of the aliens looked sick, just watching him. Narelle stepped forward. The group gasped as she picked up a tiny spoon and dipped it into the wasabi paste. She didn't hesitate. One taste. And her eyes widened as heat shot up through her nose and across her face. She coughed, once, and smiled. Bren looked at her, eyes bright. You really are something. That's when the alarms blared. Not a drill, a real warning. Jakali snapped into command mode. Meteor fragment incoming, location near the outer valley, all units to defensive protocol. Panic surged through the trainees. Bren's face turned serious in an instant. Some of the kids were sent on a recon hike in that area this morning, he said. I'll get them, Narelle said without thinking. Bren turned to her. I'm coming too. They dashed off together, without waiting for orders. The sky above turned orange as the meteor streaked closer, fragments burning through the atmosphere. Narelle's legs moved fast, dodging fallen branches and rocks. Bren stayed right beside her, focused and fearless. They found the small group of younger cadets huddled near the cliff edge, too afraid to move. We've got to move, now, Bren yelled. A blast of wind knocked a few down as a small fragment landed nearby, shaking the ground. Narelle reached one of the younger trainees, helping her up. Bren grabbed the others, yelling, Follow us! Stay low! Another tremor hit. A falling tree cracked and tipped, right toward Narelle. She froze for half a second. Then hands grabbed her, Bren's hands, yanking her back just in time. The tree slammed to the ground beside them, dust flying. Are you hurt? He asked, breathless. She shook her head. You saved me. You saved them, he said, motioning to the trainees now safely fleeing behind them. Together they sprinted after the others, not stopping until they reached the camp perimeter. Alarms faded. The meteor had broken into small, manageable debris. No deaths, no serious injuries. They had made it. That night, the camp held a quiet moment of recognition. Jakali stood before the trainees and nodded to Narelle and Bren. These two went beyond protocol to protect their team. Let this serve as a reminder. Courage comes in many forms. Applause rang out, light and warm. After the gathering, Narelle stood with Bren at the edge of the field once more. I didn't think, she said quietly. I just moved. That's the human part in you, he whispered. She looked at him, something swelling in her chest. Maybe. Or maybe it's just you and me. His expression softened. You've changed me, Bren. He brushed a lock of hair behind her ear. You changed me too, Narelle. I never expected to feel something like this during training, but now... She stepped closer, her voice barely a breath. Now? Now I don't want to go back to a life without you. Their kiss this time was deeper, filled with everything unsaid. A promise, a spark, a new beginning. Not just for them, but maybe for all their worlds, because something powerful was growing. Something more dangerous, more beautiful than any earth spice. Something called love. The last day of training arrived, and with it came a heavy silence across the camp. Trainees packed their gear, final assessments were handed out, and the once busy fields now echoed with quiet footsteps and long stares. Everyone knew their time. On Earth had changed them. But for Narelle, it had done something deeper. Earth didn't just shape her body, it reshaped her soul. And Bren? He had become more than a guide, more than a partner in training. He was her home now. They met one last time on the cliff, the same spot where glowing flowers once shimmered in the dark. It was still beautiful, but now there was a kind of sadness in the air. The kind that only comes when something too good feels like it's slipping away. I leave tomorrow, Narelle said softly. Bren nodded. I know. She looked down. They want me to teach what I learned here, back on my world. I'll be a knowledge keeper, a warrior of experience. That's a big deal, he said with a gentle smile. I should be proud. She paused, her voice shaking. But I don't want to leave you. He stepped closer, taking both her hands in his. You think I want you to go? She blinked up at him, tears building. You helped me feel things I never knew I could feel, she whispered. Not just heat or taste, but hope, love, laughter. And you made me remember what it means to truly connect, Bren replied. To let someone in, to let someone matter. The wind played softly with her hair as they stood in silence, pressed together. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small object. It was a simple pendant, made from one of the glowing flower stems. Inside it was a tiny chip, the kind Earth tech used for memory recordings. What's this? She asked, holding it gently. My memories, he said. Every moment we shared, from the chili tasting to the meteor storm. Even the first time you smiled at me like you were seeing color for the first time. Narelle's eyes shimmered. You made this for me? It's not goodbye, he said firmly. It's just a pause. Until we meet again. She leaned in, her forehead against his. Promise? On every pepper I've ever eaten, he grinned. They kissed again, slowly, deeply, like time had stopped. The next morning the ships waited, trainees lined up, boarding by group. Narelle walked slowly, her heart heavy but strong. She clutched the pendant to her chest like a lifeline. Bren stood at the edge of the landing field, arms crossed, watching. When she reached the top of the ramp, she turned back. He gave her a two-finger. Salute and mouthed, burn bright. She smiled through her tears. You too. The doors closed and the ship lifted. Earth shrank below. But what she carried inside, what they had built, grew bigger than any planet. Back on her home world, Narelle became a legend. Not for surviving Earth's trials, not for mastering the dangerous materials, but for what she brought back. She taught her people about human passion, about courage in the face of pain, about laughter through tears. And yes, she made them taste ghost peppers. Many wept, a few passed out. But they all understood one thing by the end. Humans didn't just survive Earth. They loved it, lived it, and turned even suffering into strength. And somewhere in the quiet hours of the night, when the stars burned high above, Narelle would touch the pendant close to her heart and remember the human who burned just as brightly. Their story wasn't over. It was only just beginning.